Hello loves, welcome to a new video here on the L&M channel. Today we are doing a unboxing video for this order that I got from Baum Kuchen. It is also going to be me talking about why I got this order and some changes that I'm going to be making or that I have decided to make for my 2026 lineup. It's not a 2026 sort of like official lineup video. I'm only going to do that once I finish setting up all my journals, but it is something that I just wanted to kind of sit down and chat about because there has been some changes after a lot of thinking and ideating and decision making. And so I placed this order with Baum Kuchen and it arrived today and I want to talk about it. I am covering the label with my B Plus Pocket. This is not a collaboration or anything like that. This is just an order that I placed. And I do know that this would make, I think, a second unboxing video in the last week or week and a half or couple weeks. I don't tend to make a lot of unboxing and haul videos on the channel, just because I don't really want that to be the core of the channel. But since we are going into the new year and I am, thinking about how my systems is gonna evolve into the next phase of my, life, my stationary journey, it is a part of the process. And so I hope that even if you aren't a fan of haul videos, that you can get some insight by me talking about the why of me placing these orders and so forth. So if that is something that you're interested in, that was my long-winded way of saying what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to open this box off camera and then I'll meet you back here with what is inside. I went ahead and saved the little bits that they put on the box. This is either my second or my third time ordering from Baum Kuchen, and I have to say that the packaging is always some of the most beautiful and like mindful packaging that I've received from a stationery store. I really love all about Baum Kuchen's ethos quite a lot. So let me just go ahead and open this. Okay, so there is the box. Imagination will take you everywhere is what the box says there. And then we travel not to escape life, but for life not to escape us. This is definitely like they know what the journal orders want. They want to be able to put things in their journals. Okay, so this is the beautiful package. Like I said, Baum Kuchen, honestly, their packaging is honestly amazing. I don't know if I would have put what it is that I ordered on the thumbnail or the title of the video. However, if I didn't, do you want to guess what this is just by the size of the package? If you want to guess, now's your moment to do that. Yes, quite a few things. Yeah, so I did get the 2026 Traveler's Notebook custom sticker set. I always love getting these, even if I'm not really planning on using a TN next year. But first of all, I still love my TN covers. That's not gonna change. And also, I really love, first of all, the labels, and then just all of the other, like the pockets and stuff like that. I absolutely love it. So let's look at that first, for those of you who would like to see that. So, oh, this little guy. So this is the sticker sheet. I love the green. I can't wait to use that sticker skeleton. If you know me, you know me. I love a good sticker skeleton. The tabs, which I love all the time, and then the dot stickers, and I love the pockets. The pockets are something that to me is I don't know, I never hear enough love for the pockets, which is surprising because to me they're one of my favorite things from these little sets. So I will say I don't use the sets as much as I like the stickers themselves. I definitely still have from 2024, which is the first one I purchased. Nonetheless, if I don't get anything related to travelers, I will still be getting this. I could have sworn I purchased the pocket. Maybe I forgot to add it to my cart. The pocket. Oh my god, words. The passport pencil board. I could have sworn I did, but I guess maybe I didn't add it. So that's something that I still need to order. But yeah, for in terms of travelers, it's just this year for me. It's gonna be the this little set, the sticker set, and the pocket, or rather the passport pencil board. I don't think I'm gonna go for the standard. I quite like the smaller ones. Another thing that I got was this pencil. I've been looking for a pencil alternative. I use pencil primarily when I am planning my social media content. I figured I'd give it a shot because I really like Tombow as it is. So yeah, okay, so then that's how the eraser works. You do that, and then I imagine this, yeah, like this. Cool. And it's a 0.5 millimeter lead. So I'm excited to try that and see how it works. I've been using like a big pen. Like I've been using pencils that I had from when I was in high school that I still haven't finished like using up, but it was about time I got a new pencil. So yeah, that's the Tombow monograph. Next up, I've got a stamp and two stamp pads is the word for this. I completely blanked. Stamp pads. And then this is a BK original stamp, a Baum Kuchen original stamp, the little Daruma. And I really wanted the small, tiny one, but it was out of stock. So I got this bigger one, which I love very much, and I'm excited to kind of use that as well. Love. And then I got some washi. It's been a really long time since I've ordered some washi, and I was intrigued by some of these. So let me get them out of their packaging, and then I'll show you what they are. Okay, I figured I'd just finish unboxing everything. So the next little stamp I got was this little clover stamp, which is part of the Baum Kuchen logo. And I just love it for like little accents. I have been wanting to get more and more into stamps, as you can see by some of my recent purchases. Heavily inspired by Maddie over at Hello Naya. And speaking about Maddie from Hello Naya, one of the reasons why I ended up getting this particular washi tape is because the clovers remind me of her. And also the makers of these washi tape, this one as well, are Yohaku. And the first time I ever tried Yohaku was because she gave me some samples. And so whenever I think of them, I think of her. And so I got these two, which are really, really beautiful. I will do a little swatch of these later on in the video so you guys can see them in action. And then I got these two BK original washi tapes. You can kind of see, again, the little clover insignia here. This one is called Seasons, and this one is called Morse Code. And I really love this kind of like indigo color. Beautiful. So those are the washi tape that I got. I think they're beautiful. I love the colors. And then the big part of this haul are these two things here. So I have the Midori 1 day per page notebook, and I also have the MD notebook diary for 2026. This is the thin version. A little backstory about how we got here. So if you watched my 2026 video, you'll know that my lineup pretty much consists of two main journals for next year. One being the Hobonichi Cousin in the Avex system and the Jibun Techo. One of the really good things about this year, and the reason why I was able to kind of figure out that I wanted to do this pivot, or could do this pivot in the first place, is that I had this agreement with my sister where they weren't going to purchase their Avec just yet to give me some time. I really wanted to purchase this cover, and I couldn't purchase this cover unless I purchased a book with it. So I ended up getting the Cousin because I did think that I was going to use this next year. There was really not a big reason why I wouldn't, but there was still some like internal struggle, I guess, in my case, some internal conflict, and so that's why I told my sister, hey, don't get your book, because if I end up deciding I don't want to use this, then I'll just sell you mine, and there's no harm, no foul. And then I got this 2026 Jibun Techo, and there is a part of me that wants to say it was somewhat of a impulse purchase. However, it is a type of notebook that I've been wanting to try for a while. It's kind of similar to like the Take a Note this year, where I got it thinking that it would be a really good functional system. I had never tried any notebook like it. In a similar vein, Our Studio Journal, I had never tried any notebook like that. I mean, I'm still fairly new to the notebook game, um, in terms of like these types of brands. So there's still other formats that I would really like to try. And I could never have anticipated the level at which I have fallen in love with rings as a system. Even at the point where I was making my purchases for 2026, which I did place these orders right at the beginning of September, if I'm not mistaken. I think I placed this order probably in August for the Jibun Techo. And yeah, things have shifted. I was talking to Maddie again. Maddie's just going to be mentioned all around this video, but next year, I really don't think that I'm going to place an order for any journals until around the November mark. I think that the November mark is really a good place. Um, because from like September and October have been months where I've been thinking quite heavily about next year. Um, and the ways that I like to journal. A lot of the things that I've done this year in my journals have been sort of experimenting with what I already had and trying to make what I had work. But I also want to think about, okay, well, what's optimal, right? Like what does journaling look like if I'm not trying to make something that I purchased work? And so I have been thinking a lot about the intersection between the Jibun Tacho and the Hobonichi weeks, which I constantly forget to mention. Like it's happened to me in the weekly updates as well. I constantly forget to mention the Hobonichi weeks because to me the Hobonichi weeks is just it's not debatable. Like this is part of the system and like that's it. But I've been thinking about it quite a lot, and for the things that I wanted to do with the Avec, it made it so that the Jibun Tacho didn't really have a purpose. And that was a little bit concerning for me because I can get rid of the Avec. I can pass it on along to my sister. I can't really get rid of the Jibun Tacho. It's an expensive journal. I do think this is probably the most expensive journal that I've purchased so far. And the truth is that I do want to use I really am called to this kind of format. And so, ideating, thinking about the Hobonichi cousin and how I've used it this year, I I was doing some brainstorming and I bring out the M5 because I have my notes in here. So, at first I was thinking, okay, well, let's say I use the Jibun Tacho to have like the monthlies be a place where I keep track of my social media stats, when it is that I post, and then potentially have a space for like wins and highlights, which is something that I have noticed in the last couple of months that I don't really have a consistent place to log those in my journals. I think I have a workaround for that, using capacities now, but I would still like a place to have them in my physical journals because to me, my physical journals are a really a source of memory keeping first and foremost. And so I was considering doing that with the monthlies, and then with the dailies, having it be so that it's kind of like half gratitude journaling and half joy journaling. And the reason for that was that, okay, originally when I was thinking about the monthlies, and I've talked about this for a little bit, is that, I'm sorry, not the monthlies, the Avec. I was going to use the vertical weeklies as joy journal, right? Since I'm not using the Hour Studio Journal um next year, I needed a place to kind of have like my joy journaling section. And I figured that the vertical weeklies could work for that. Something that I've realized for me though, in terms of like the cousin, is that I don't really like the monthlies. I think that they don't inspire me, and I don't like working in them. That's actually been the monthlies right now in the cousin have been a place where I don't really feel very inspired to be in those pages. And then something that I've noticed as well in my case is that I'm always kind of lagging behind on the daily pages, and I'm constantly struggling between choosing let me kind of get that so that you guys can see it. I don't mind having a backlog, first of all. That's not really the problem, but I experience a lot of friction because there are some pages that I like to have associated to what's on the page. And there are some pages that I don't. So like for example, I often will put like the birthdays spreads will be the days that are associated with the character. Or if I finish a book, I like, okay, I want to put that on the day. But then I have other pages where that doesn't actually happen that way. And it's not a big deal. It's something that I've been okay with doing so far, but it is something that does cause a little bit of friction in the system. And it kind of goes back to what I've talked about before about having like two modes of journaling, which is the stream of consciousness type journaling and the one that's more date based. And so that's one thing. And I realized that I think I would prefer having an undated daily page. That way, there's a little bit more leeway, especially considering that I want to use Pouch's journal tool, which allows for having timestamps on images. I think that's a really amazing tool that I want to continue to use into the future, where I don't necessarily need to have them on the day because the image itself will have the timestamp on it. And then another thing that I was considering as well in terms of how I like to journal is that I think I would rather have my collections or like my memories or stuff like that in a more conceptual way than necessarily a time based way. So all of those things kind of worked to inform me and say, okay, well, I think I would rather have my dailies be undated. And again, there's a workaround for it. I can just completely ignore the days in the daily pages, and that's fine. That's not a big deal. But then I was thinking, okay, if I use the Jibun Techo for kind of like daily, like kind of like I wrote here, as a space for half gratitude journal and half joy journal, I can use the vertical weeklies as a space for daily log, right? Like I could use the vertical weekly for that. And I have a love and hate relationship with the vertical weekly. As you guys have heard me say many times, right now I'm trying out having like trying to do the kind of like daily log in this way. And I was considering kind of okay, what does it look like if I use the daily log, if I use the vertical weeklies as daily log, and then also have it be a place for kind of like the images that do belong to that I do want to have in time and place. But that would mean that really the only spread that I really want to use in that way and that I wouldn't have that much of an issue with would be the vertical weeklies. Otherwise, I have the monthlies that I don't really care for and the dailies that I would just kind of have to figure out how to use in a way that worked without really dealing with the monthlies. I would have to, or rather with the dates, I considered potentially taking out the monthly pages as well and kind of just removing that altogether. Lots of workaround. And like I said, this year I've done that and have worked around all of that because I had already purchased these journals and there was no way around it. And I wanted to use the things that I had. But there is still some flexibility in my system where I could potentially change it if I wanted to. And so, kind of giving me the freedom to do that, knowing that I could always sell this to my sister and it wouldn't be this kind of like loss, I started thinking up, okay, what if I used another journal that didn't have days? And so I was kind of thinking up what journals I could use and trying to see what kind of monthlies I like because um, I really love like of all the monthlies, my favorite monthly is the Our Studio Journal monthly. 100%. I love the monthly in that. It inspires me so much to be in there. But then I found okay, the Midori actually has a really beautiful monthly. And the Midori has cream paper. I love cream paper. I do definitely feel more inspired when I'm working in cream paper. And so I was like, okay, the Midori one day per page. What about that? And what's really cool about the Midori one day per page is that again we have the beautiful monthlies, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous girls, and I'll go into this a little bit more, but the dailies are undated, and so I wouldn't really have to worry about dated pages. This one doesn't have the vertical weekly, so I don't really have that issue, and I have these beautiful monthlies. So I was like, okay, this could work. This could potentially work. It is a very thick book, and so I am considering cutting this up in a similar way that I cut up the Hobonichi cousin and putting it into an A5 rings. But there's a potential for me working inside it for the time being, kind of similarly to how I started working in the Hobonichi cousin, without putting it into rings right off the bat. So there's a possibility for that still. So let's say I use the Midori 1 day per page, right? I have the monthlies kind of work as what I'm doing in my Hour Studio journal, where I keep tabs on every single month. I will put in my Patreon members, my paid members will have a space in my monthly, and then I can have just general highlights and potentially have like daily sketches or daily stickers on the calendar as kind of like a memory keeping situation. And I could even potentially have like an index somewhere along there as well, because since I'm going to be working conceptually in the pages, I could use that as sort of an index if I wanted to. And then the dailies would be the magpie portion, right? Like it would have the fan art, the concepts, any notes, any images from life. I would kind of like put everything together into one kind of book. And if I do end up putting it in rings, that I could even potentially have sections if I wanted to. And what's really cool is that if I did put it in rings, I can have other pages in. Like for example, my Midori Codex, I've talked about how I'm going to cut that up. I could potentially use the pages in there and kind of mix and match. And so that's an option that I was considering as well. And so if I use that, then I have the Jibun Techo, right? And so I considered, again, kind of keeping the monthlies to be a more functional space, and have it be kind of like a social media tracker of sorts. And then I would have the dailies be a place where I can kind of do daily logging and kind of stream of consciousness and all that jazz. And if I ever felt the need to maybe use something else, like one of my rings or anything like that, I could always just tip those in. And so that's kind of like what I'm thinking about with Jibun Techo, is kind of using this as a daily log, a stream of consciousness book, slash inbox situation. Now that is still a little wonky to me. It still has there's still some ideation that I need to do there, but that's kind of like where I've landed there. And I have decided that my personal rings, the Ranger, is going to be my functional system. So I'm going to have my weekly schedule in there, my monthly schedule, my yearly trackers, and then kind of like a notes section. And I've considered maybe having some type of weekly tracker in the pocket as well, and maybe like a place for book notes. I definitely will have notes in all three of the different rings that I use, the different ring sizes, because I'm constantly going in and out of that. And then the so it would be the Midori 1 day per page as kind of like my magpie journal and my joy journal, all of those things put together. And then I would have, what's really funny is that when I said that I told Maddie, I was telling her, hey, I was thinking maybe I could do this as my joy journal. And she goes, okay, I'm going to say this with the most kindness in the world. But if you struggle with keeping up to date in a weekly joy journal, how do you think you're going to keep up with a daily one? And that's a totally valid response. What I was thinking was having kind of like I'm not gonna like make more memories, obviously, and instead of having like a weekly spread, kind of having a daily spread, and whatever's empty stays empty. But I don't know, we'll see about that. I do also kind of like the idea of still having separate kind of like my memory keeping stuff and when I say memory keeping, I mean kind of like my real life stuff and my more meta conceptual research fan art stuff. But I do also like the idea of having them together. And so that's something that I'm still kind of thinking about. But that would be that. And then the Hobonichi weeks would be, let me make sure I didn't create a new one, and that's still the same one. It should be, because it hasn't really changed. Yeah, so the Hobonichi weeks would be kind of like my weekly log as usual that I've been doing. And then the notes pages will have kind of like the different lists that I right now keep in my cousin, because I have the pages, and if I don't use them, then it feels like a loss because they're dated. And so lists kind of like the word banks, the first songs, and the character birthdays and stuff like that. What I'm going to do with the monthlies there, I still haven't decided. It's just going to depend on quite a few factors. And so that's kind of like what I'm thinking about and why I ended up making this purchase in the first place. So I am going to be saying goodbye to the Hobonichi cousin for the next for 2026. I'm going to be selling this to my sister so that they can use it, and I'm going to be switching to the Midori system. Another thing that was a little bit concerning for me was like the paper and fountain pen and all that stuff. And it's very likely that the paper is going to be great, but I really want to try out the cream paper, and see how that feels in the new year. And if I decide, okay, actually maybe I prefer the Hobonichi, then that's something that I know in the future. But I really want to try the Midori system. So bye bye to the cousin. We will miss you. I don't regret using the cousin, and quite frankly, the cousin is one of those books that I say I'm not going to use at the start of the year and somehow makes its way into my system anyways. And so hopefully it won't do that next year, but who knows, really? Who knows? One of my major concerns with the Midori is that it's a thick book, which is why I think that I will be ultimately cutting it down. If you have never seen one before, it does have this kind of like plastic faux leather cover. It's unlike the other kind of like notebooks in that it usually has an exposed binding. In this case it doesn't. And then it starts off with this cover page, and then you have story of 2026, your years on one page. You have 2026 and 2027. It starts in December, and then you have up until, I believe, January in the next, let's see here, yeah, of the next year of 2027. And then you go into your dailies, and your dailies are not dated. So the only dated part of this journal is the monthlies. Otherwise, it is undated. And then let me just go ahead and show you a close-up of the pages. So there is a timeline that you can see there, right on the side. And then you have this blank space. And you have a space for the date up here. I really love the format of this. I also really like how it looks like with the tabs. I'm not gonna tab it because, like I said, I'm not gonna predate this journal at all. But I will keep the tabs because I do like how they look quite a lot. I think they're really pretty. I love the design of the Midori system, and again the cream paper. I'm so excited. I am, when I do the setup for this, going to do, of course, the paper test and all that jazz so you guys can see it. And then at the back, you have the kind of like signature section and personal information, and then to be continued 2027. So I kind of don't want to unbind it because I really like the kind of feel of this journal, but knowing me, I'm probably going to end up unbinding it. So we shall see. We shall see what life brings. The point is for me to use it, and if that means I need to take it out of its binding, then that is going to be what happens. But then you can be asking, Chris, okay, cool. You're talking about that, but then you have this other random little journal over here. Okay, the thing is that I saw that they have a thin version of a 2026 diary, and I was intrigued because, again, I love a thin journal, and I wanted to see it, and I had an idea of what I could potentially use this for if it did end up working that way. So let's take this up. So this is the 2026 MD Notebook Diary, the thin version. In a similar way, you have the the first opening page, story of 2026. You have the same thing, and then you have your monthlies. But then after you have your monthlies, let's see, I'm pretty sure it'll be up to January. Yep. You have these pages. So you have a couple of grid pages. I think it's all grid. I don't think there's any blank. Yeah. So this is all grid pages. So then you have just these grid pages here in the back. Then you have your signature and your to be continued. And so I was, considering how I could utilize this instead of the Midori one day per page, where I have just kind of like this general page situation. I have the blank pages, and then I could, again, if I decide to unbind it, then I can just add and remove as necessary. One of the big reasons too that I wanted to kind of like trial this one out was that it's much less costly than the 1 day per page. So I wanted to show you guys that that was an option because I had never really seen anyone use this before. This kind of diary version. I've seen the 1 day per page mostly as a A6 journal. There is an A6 version of this, but I've never really seen these. And so I was really intrigued and wanted to see what that looked like. I am considering the potential for it being a companion to the Hobonichi weeks, and maybe having this be the place for fan art, instead of having the magpie be the place for fan art, or potentially it could be a place where I put the joy journal instead, where it's kind of keeping track of my real life stuff. And so that's just one of the things that I'm sort of ideating. I also considered, well, if I can find someone to purchase the Jibun Techo, then what would that look like in the ecosystem? But I haven't gotten that far. Of course, if you are interested in purchasing the Jibun Techo from me, let me know. But for now, that's what it's looking like. So I don't have 100% answers. That's why I say I'm not 100% saying this is my lineup for next year. That video will come after the setups are done. But that is kind of like where I'm at. It's looking like it's going to be a primarily Midori heavy notebook situation next year, with the Hobonichi weeks being the representative for Hobonichi. I did also consider potentially getting a second Hobonichi weeks, but that feels a little bit much. I don't know what I would use it for. And of course, this is going to be used alongside my rings system. So the rings are not going anywhere. I'm going to continue to use my rings. Yeah, that's not changing at all. I'm going to continue to use them, and if ever I need to use them in place of one of these books, then I will tip in the pages as I have been doing. I did consider for a little bit, okay, maybe I can kind of like daily log in here as well. I mean, there's a lot of pages. Of course, it's a day per page, and I doubt that I'll get through every single page, and so yeah, there's a lot of possibility. I am pretty much thinking that this A5 setup will be the place that I put everything. It'll really be a magpie place, like all notes and stuff like that, like course notes and things. And then I can sort of create sections as I go, which is why I really do think that I'm probably going to end up cutting this up and putting it into rings. And yeah, the only other thing that I'm kind of not 100% sure about is the vertical weeklies. That's something I considered as well, is cutting this one up and printing out vertical weeklies for this journal and seeing how that looks. I am going to be designing some printables for myself next year, and so that's another option. The vertical weeklies is one of those things that I know I cannot consistently be in, but I like having it every once in a while. So having the option to do that would be really nice. And I don't quite like the idea of having to draw it myself, which is why I'm saying that I'm probably going to do a printable situation. But yeah. I also considered making this like a course book, but I don't know. We shall see. I am still in the ideating process. Definitely going to use them because, again, I really love the monthlies, and I did feel like I was going to need a second monthly, just because there's a few things that I like to keep track of on a monthly basis. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what I got going on. Those are my thoughts for 2026. I think that they're definitely still a little all over the place, but I'm just, this is just the way that my brain works. I yeah, I'm not 100% sure, and that's okay. So this is me saying, if you are not 100% sure, that's okay as well. If you are pretty much set on what you're going to be doing for next year, then that's amazing. I'm really, really excited. That's your case. I thought that I was, but I'm not, and that's fine. But I am pretty certain. I'm not pretty certain. I am certain that I'm not going to be doing the cousin at least not for the purpose that I originally got it. So that will be leaving the ecosystem for next year. And um, yeah, there was another thing that I wanted to say, and I cannot recall right now what it was, like at all. Oh, that the setups. So I'm going to be setting up my ink journal this month, right before the start of Inkvent. So keep an eye out for that. And I'm going to be setting up the Hobonichi weeks before December. So that's also going to be coming out in November. So keep an eye out for that as well. I'm probably going to do the setup for this one in December. And yeah, that's what I got going on in the ecosystem right now in terms of journals. Please let me know what you think and let me know what your feelings are towards your 2026 system, because I would love to know that I'm not alone, but also I really hope that I am, in the sense that I hope that you're not feeling this tumultuous situation with your journals, because yeah, we want to be feeling good with our journals, right? We want to be feeling good. So that was my little Baum Kuchen haul. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and that, oh, let me know what it is that you were doing while you were watching. I always love seeing what it is that anyone is doing through these kind of like body doubling videos. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye. Oh, if you are interested in seeing whether the Midori Day Per Page fits inside of an A5 cover, you can see it kind of goes out. I would say that they would probably fit better inside of a 5-year cover instead. So just FYI, in case you were curious about that. And let me try the thin one. Yep, thin one seems to fit just fine. So just letting you know, in case you were curious.